Now, the chairperson of the National Council of Provinces addressed the first strategic planning session of the NCOP under the Government of National Unity today in Johannesburg. The sessions are convened after general elections to start planning or start the planning processes, if you like, to develop policy priorities, a strategic plan and annual performance plans. NCOP House Chairperson for Member Support and International Relations, Bheki Radebe, joins us now for more. Pungani, good to have you. And thank you very much for your time. How helpful is this particular process for the administration that is coming in? What, for example, are the key areas that this planning session is going to focus on?
Yeah, this session is very important indeed, because as we emerge from an election, the financial management of Parliament Provincial Legislatures Act provides that within 6 months after the elections, the Parliament must go and present its strategic plan for the next 5 years. And that strategic plan must be presented to the Joint Standing Committee on Financial Management of Parliament, and then it must also be adopted by Parliament. But in order to do its job, it has to look at an opening statements with policy statement by the President. As the President has highlighted 3 priority areas in his opening of Parliament address. The first one, the issue of inclusive growth and job creation. The second point being the issue of fighting poverty and dealing with the issue of high cost of living. And the third point being the creation of an ethical developmental state. So what happens, because the Constitution imposes upon Parliament that it must oversight the executive. So what must happen is that the Parliament, as the President has articulated his objectives for the next 5 years, the Parliament must come with a plan on how it is going to oversight the executive, so that whatever the President promised in his opening of Parliament address is realized on the ground. Yeah. So this process was very important and very effective.
So as a conversation, for example, around the reopening of debate on effectiveness of policies like the Bella Act, the NHI, to name but a few. We spoke yesterday, for example, to the Deputy Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, putting, of course, some of the responsibilities around the Home Affairs Department as well, on migration and how we handle all these legal frameworks. What would be your role there as the NCOP around those policies and the effectiveness thereof?
No, what is important as the NCOP is the House of Parliament, which deals with the interest of the provinces. That's why it's like a forum where the interests of the provinces are addressed. So when you speak about the Bella Bill is basically a co-current function between the National Department of Basic Education and the provincial departments. So whatever agreement or whatever is in the bill, eventually it has to be implemented by the provincial governments. So what was happening is that our select committees on social transformation is going to deal to monitor how it is going to be implemented.
So you are not concerned at all with the, if you like, difference of opinion around an act like the Bella Act, where some of the parties within the Government of National Unity are not seeing eye to eye around its effectiveness?
No, they have a right. South Africa is a democratic state. They have a right to hold an opinion. What is important for us is that how was the process conducted in the process executed in adopting of this bill. What we have found is that the Portfolio Committee on Education and the Select Committee on Education has done everything according to the book. It is always the fact that South Africa is a plural society. People will have their views, but at the end of the day, both houses of Parliament adopted the bill. So if they want a recourse, actually what I liked with what the president did is that he said that the implementation of other clauses are going to be put on abeyance for some time to give negotiations for 3 months. But what must happen at the end of the day is that the will of the people was realized with the adoption of that bill and the ascension of that bill. So I think that if any party is aggrieved, there are certain avenues which they can follow. One of the avenues is to go to court. But I think that the parliament has done its job properly. I think that it's going to stand the scrutiny of time. Thank you.
You're bringing together, of course, members, as you put it, who come from provinces that have various experiences and have got ideas in how they want to approach, for example, even their intervention at local government. Now, we were speaking today, for example, around changes in the Tshwane municipality, which others can view as destabilizing, others can view as improvements. How do you, as the NCOP, see the kind of changes that are happening at the municipal level? As you're coming into this new administration, you're a government of national unity, coalitions are almost becoming a norm.
What is very important, we must just go and look at what the Constitution says. The Constitution says that there are 3 spheres of government in the Republic of South Africa: the national sphere, provincial sphere, and the local sphere. There's no sphere which is better than the other one. Each sphere has got a right to execute its mandate according to the provisions of the Constitution and the acts which makes them to come into existence. So how a particular municipality is going to deal with these issues is up to it, because the voters of that area have elected a particular land, has ensured that a particular outcome of the election can come into existence. But as to how they do it inside there, we cannot dictate to them. We can only come if there's a request for intervention. Right. The request for intervention can come from the side of the provincial government. If they see that things are falling apart, and then they can come and make a presentation to the NCOP to deal with that. And that one also is done strictly according to the law. That's why the NCOP cannot just impose itself on any municipality or on any provincial government or legislation. Thank you.
House Chair, what is your feeling as the NCOP, and how are you actively engaging with this difficulty that we have seen now, especially around the immigration policy? What is your view around how provinces, and maybe even by extension local governments, are implementing the immigration policy, where we are finding challenges around illegal occupation of buildings? We're finding challenges around people now. We saw the Department of Labor conducting raids at restaurants who are operating there without the proper documentation. We are dealing with problems, particularly recently with the Miss South Africa pageant, where identity theft would have actually been alleged. Part of your job is to see how what are the challenges in the design of that policy that enables these challenges to come up.
No, what is very important, what I want to bring to attention, that the immigration policy is being applied by the Department of Home Affairs. So there are certain laws which are in place dealing with immigration policy. And this immigration policy will cascade to the other departments, like the Department of Labor. When you go to the Department of Employment, it will be very clear that there are certain skills which we are running short of in the country. So what it will do, it will put a certain skills at a particular level, that if a person has got a particular skill, that person must apply accordingly and apply for the visa to come and work. What cannot be tolerated is when the people are just going to come with fraudulent visas and come and work in South Africa, because there's no country in the world which allows a free-for-all for any free for all for the foreign nationals to come and occupy their places and take the jobs which are actually relevant. But what we say is that all the immigrants who are in legally, they have a right entitlement and the protection from the Constitution of the Republic.
And finally, yes?
Yes. What is important here is that if we found a loophole in any law, the Parliament has got a right to call the executive to amend that law, or the executive itself can come to Parliament and say that we are seeing a lacuna in this law. Will you please let us come with a bill and then fix it up? And then I think that's how all the nations in the world are doing it.
Yeah. Finally, we are faced with extortion in this country. That requires a specific response. It's a problem that has been brought to our attention. Are there areas that you believe might need to be reviewed in our legislation?
On the issue of extortion, on the issue of extortion, that one is pure criminal activity. Being a pure criminal activity, it means that the law enforcement agencies must do their job. And then in the recent past, we are very proud of what the South African Police Service has done. I think that is taking the challenge head on, and the extortionists are feeling the pressure, and they have got they'll have nowhere to hide. But we give our men and women in blue all the support to go and ensure that this cash is blown out in the Republic of South Africa, because we believe that each and every person must earn an honest day's living. We cannot have a situation whereby a policy of government is distorted. When we speak about the 30%, the 30% is is an empowering policy, because it says, it's very clear that the historically disadvantaged, the businesses who are owned by historically disadvantaged people will know that they might not have equipment, they might not have the capital. But if there's a mega project, the main contractor must allocate about 30% of the job there, or the allocation of 30% to the local contractors. But it does not mean that the local contractors the people must just come in and demand that money. They must work so that by the time the projects come to an end, they must have acquired skill and a track record. What track record I was speaking about? The activity in their bank accounts. It means that that company will be able to have an activity in the so that when in the future projects, they are able to go and get bridging finance from the financial institution in which they will be working.
Right.
So that one is very good. Even with that, with all the challenges that we're having, we don't think that we can throw the baby out with the water.
Yes.
The issue is that we must be steadfast. I think that on that polar regard, the government is doing a good job. These extortionists are being taken to court,
yes,
and then they are being dealt with. I think that let us allow the process to reveal itself. Thank you.
Bongani, we appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming on. NCOP House Chairperson and member for member support and international relations there, Mr. Bheki Radebe. Let's take a break. What's making news tonight on In Focus when we continue next?